If you've ever travelled abroad and suddenly realised your usual meal costs twice as much or half as much as at home, you've already come across one of the ideas behind the Big Mac Index. In this video, we're going to look at what the Big Mac Index is and why it's used. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps this small channel grow. The Big Mac Index is one of the simplest ways to compare currency value and cost of living between countries. It uses a single, globally familiar product from McDonald's, the Big Mac, to give a snapshot of how expensive life feels in different places. It was created in 1986 by The Economist as a light-hearted way to explain a serious economic concept called purchasing power parity, or PPP. But over time, it became something economists and journalists still use today because it actually reveals something quite useful about the world: how far your money really goes in different countries. So how does it work? You take the price of a Big Mac in one country, convert it into US dollars, and compare it to the price in the US. If the burger is cheaper than in the US, that suggests the local currency might be undervalued. If it's more expensive, the currency might be overvalued. But here's where it gets more interesting, and where cost of living comes in. Because the price of a Big Mac isn't just about currency strength, it reflects the real-world cost of living in that country. Things like wages, rent for the restaurant, energy prices, taxes, supply chains, and even how expensive ingredients are locally all feed into that price. So in a way, the Big Mac Index becomes a tiny edible cost of living indicator. For example, in a country where wages are lower and rent is cheaper, a Big Mac will usually cost less. That doesn't just reflect currency value, it reflects the overall lower cost of running businesses and living life in that country. On the other hand, in places like Switzerland or Norway, Big Macs tend to be expensive. That doesn't just mean their currencies are strong, it also reflects very high wages, expensive property, strict regulations, and higher operating costs. In those countries, everything is more expensive, not just burgers. So while the index is often talked about in terms of currency valuation, it's just as useful for understanding relative cost of living in a very simple, relatable way. Think of it like this. If your salary stays the same, but you move to a country where a Big Mac costs 40% more, you'll probably feel poorer, even if exchange rates may say your money is strong. That's the cost of living effect the index helps highlight. Of course, it's not a perfect measure. It only uses one product, and a fast food burger isn't representative of everything people buy. Housing, healthcare, transport, and energy costs all matter far more in real life. And McDonald's pricing itself can vary based on branding, competition, and local strategy, not just economic fundamentals. But even with those limitations, the index still works surprisingly well as a rough comparison tool. It gives you a quick way to understand three things at once: currency strength, relative prices, and cost of living differences. Few economic tools manage to combine all of that in something you can literally hold in your hand. Do you think the Big Mac Index is a useful economic tool or just a joke that has no real value? Let me know down in the comments, and please do subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.